New fallout from a White House staffer's leaked comments mocking and nailing Senator John McCain. The White House is ramping up its offensive against internal leaks in televised interviews and in at least one closed-door meeting, the content of which was promptly leaked by 5 sources to Axios reporter Jonathan Swan. And this is what he told me about the overarching significance of these leaks.
It shows the atmosphere and the breakdown in trust inside this White House that we have real-time leaking of this volume and magnitude. It's actually unheard of for a White House. You did not have this in the Obama administration. You did not have this in the George W. Bush administration. This is and this is not an aberration. This has been the pattern now for almost 16 months.
Let's bring in Republican strategist Susan Del Percio and Democratic strategist Don Calloway. With a good Sunday to you both. Ladies first here, Susan. What do you think these leaks reveal about the Trump administration?
It shows that it's an undisciplined administration that is not made up of professionals. These are people who are the only people that would take these jobs in the administration for the most part. And because people are worried that the Trump administration working for it will actually hurt their reputations down the road. But that being said, it's also a reflection of General Kelly, also as chief of staff. This should not be tolerated. If there's that much distrust among the staff, how can the public trust this administration if they can't trust each other?
From a messaging standpoint, Don, why do you think the White House is putting so much focus on the leaks as opposed to mitigating the damage from the comments themselves?
Right. Well, we found that this president is a master deflector, and this is another instance of that. Let's not talk about the substance of what he said and why that was an absolutely abhorrent thing to say. Let's talk about the leaks and just deflect again. Deflect from the fact that this young woman still has a job. Deflect from the fact that leadership comes from the top. And she said this to a room in which she thought it would either be received well or she knew that there would be no repercussions for saying such a vile thing. So let's deflect from that and let's focus on the leaks. I totally agree with Susan, and she is completely right. The leaks are a perfect example of how we know that this administration is not full of people who are professionals in communications or in politics in general. And frankly, they're people who have undermined the gravity and the respect that the American people afford to any given presidency. And we see that every day with just the nature of unprofessionalism out of this White House.
But you know what, Don? I mean, you heard the clip, I'm sure, earlier. Fox News is pushing back. Every reputable news organization is pushing back, saying, why isn't the White House apologizing? You would think that the White House would look at this and say, we need to put an apology out there because clearly this was wildly inappropriate. The vast majority of this country feels it was wildly inappropriate. Why don't they just do that?
That's not in this president's nature. And again, leadership flows from the top. The young woman made the comments because she knew that they would be in a room that was either well received or she knew that there would be no repercussions. This president doesn't apologize for anything, and it's a very bullheaded position. It frankly makes no sense whatsoever. But I think that he finds somehow some point of pride in not only saying these outrageous things, but by not apologizing for them. And it's just unfortunate.
And just to add to that, Alex, if I may, any reputable staffer in this position, now that we're at day 3 of this story, would have resigned just to protect their boss for no other reason instead of having this story. So that also just goes to the inexperience and lack of ability of this White House.
What do you think the chances are, Susan, that the White House does offer an apology at some point?
I doubt it. Not anymore. It's gone too far at this point, and that time has passed.
Okay. Looking at some new poll numbers, this particularly from The Economist YouGov, which found that 75% of Republicans consider Bob Mueller's investigation to be a witch hunt. There are only 13% that see it as being legitimate. However, on the flip side, 76% of Democrats say, yep, it's legitimate. 10% see it as a witch hunt. Where do you stand? Is Bob Mueller's investigation legit, or is it a witch hunt?
To me? I'm sorry.
Susan, yeah.
Oh, it's completely legitimate. What these numbers show is that Donald Trump has been very effective in his team in basically trying to mislead the American public of the purpose of the Mueller investigation. And no one fights back from Mueller because he just has his head down and keeps looking to do his job. I think part of the strategy is, if you did something wrong or not, and the president probably does not want to make sure, or rather wants to make sure that whatever Mueller says, it will not be deemed credible.
But as we look in terms of the length of time here, Don, Thursday, it's 1 year of Mueller's appointment. And certainly the public, the news media, we've watched this conversation around the investigation go from Russian collusion to obstruction of justice to a porn star payoff. I mean, does Mueller owe the public something, anything tangible to reassure the public that his probe is making progress towards its original intent? Or does he not need to because he is a special counsel and, by Susan's description, just putting his head down, doing his work?
Well, there's two answers to that. First of all, he absolutely does not need to produce anything to show the American public that the investigation is moving on according to schedule. Investigations take a long time, and who knows that is Rudy Giuliani, the former United States attorney for one of the New York districts. A thorough and proper investigation takes a long time, and we should welcome it going as long as it needs to. This 1 year mark it should mean nothing to the minds of a thinking person. However, I will say that he has produced 3 legitimate indictments. The young man is Vanderhaas, excuse me, I think that's his name, is going to jail for 30 days this week as a result of this investigation. And the 2 other guys that have actually been convicted and been indicted. So it's not as though we've seen nothing, but a thorough investigation. And he has a very, very broad charter that was drafted by Rod Rosenstein that allows him to look not only into Russian interference, but into matters that emanate from that. He has a broad license to investigate a lot of people about a lot of things. And I'm happy to see that it goes much longer than we thought it might have at first.
You know what, Susan, very quickly, Thursday, we're expecting something according to Rudy Giuliani. He told NBC News they're going to make a little fuss. What do you think he means by that?
Who knows? Probably more deflection. Let's face it, we already know that Rudy Giuliani said that there's not going to be any interview with the president until after the summit with North Korea. So by their timeline, they're already extending it. And again, this fuss, if you will, it's all about deflection. Robert Mueller should be doing his investigation. The administration and Donald Trump should be doing their job and not talking about the investigation. They're looking to muddy the waters.
Okay, guys, I'm going to have you back in just a bit. Sit tight. We're going to talk about the economy, a strong economy, and how that might influence midterm votes. So we'll have you back for that shortly. Meantime, what is... Let's go now to a new report on the impact the strong economy could have on the battle for Congress. The Hill reports Democrats are growing worried that the economy will help Republicans win the midterms with an effect that could then spill over into the 2020 race. Back with me, Susan Del Percio and Don Calloway. Don, to you, does the president deserve any credit for the strong economy? And, you know, is this a legitimate concern for Democrats in the midterms in November?
Thanks, Alex. At 18 months, we've reached the point where, sure, it's okay for the president to take credit for a strong economy. You know, we have moved out of the place of either blaming or lauding Obama for everything that happens now. However, I urge everybody who can hear me to remember, the stock market is not the economy. You have to look at the economy holistically. Small business is the backbone of this country, and the vast majority of our businesses are not publicly traded. So this president wants to take credit for the economy because of the stock market. He also has to take credit for these unwieldy and completely disconnected from market fundamentals tariffs that he just throws around willy-nilly, which are doing real and tangible damage to steel manufacturers, aluminum manufacturers throughout the country in the battleground states that he absolutely won. So he has to take credit for that. Now, Democrats have to push that message out. They have very dynamic candidates and an unpopular president, but they've got to push the message out that this president has not really done well for the economy. He's done well for big businesses, which are publicly traded.
So, Susan, in just the few moments I have left in the show, to his point, look, not every American's invested in the stock market. So your take on this?
Yeah, but that's true, but the polls that we see now, the American public as a whole does feel the economy is going in the right direction, in the high 50s in many cases, whereas the president's popularity is only in the low 40s. So the economy, even if they don't like the president, the American public feels is going in the right direction. That'll be very helpful in keeping the Senate in Republican hands. When it comes down to congressional races, these are swing districts. It all depends on how big of a problem Donald Trump becomes in these districts.
Okay, Susan Del Percio, Don Calloway, good to talk with you both. Thanks so much.
Thank you.
I'll see you
Happy
again.
Mother's Day.
Thank you.